All right, Dorothy, why don't you kick us off?
Okay, I'm here. Annette is here. Mr. Lim, we hope is in transit. Is Rick here?
Rick's here.
Hey, Rick, how are you?
Hey. Hi.
You're hiding in the back there.
Yeah.
Can we do a roll for Albany?
Sure. For Department of State, Whitney Clark, Director.
Amy Pensney, Supervisor of Licensing Services.
Keith Simon.
Denise Tidings.
Carol Fansler.
Art Mastribuno.
Donna Zoller.
Jody DeLallo.
Mary Jo Moore.
Rick Caputo.
Okay, and in New York, we should have at least 2 Department of State staff members.
Dave stepped out for a minute. Ernita Gann, Chief Investigator, Enforcement.
And David just stepped out. We had a question for him, so we went to gather a license application. We put him to work already. Hey. Hey.
A guest.
And we have 2 members of the public.
Okay. We have some members of the public here as well. Who do we have from the public in New York City?
We have Brenda McCarthy. Grace McCarthy from the Art of Massage, who would like to address everybody at the closing, and Anthony Civitano, the Executive Director of the New York State Beauty School Association.
Okay, and I'm sorry, I missed you, Dorothy. Where is Ms. McCarthy from?
The Art of Massage.
Art of Massage.
It's an aesthetics and massage establishment in New York.
And Albany. Okay.
Ruth Singer from BPSS. That's right.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome. We do not have a quorum, but let's get started. We have a lot to talk about this morning. I had a couple of announcements. We haven't met in a while, and I believe this is my first meeting in my new position. We've had quite a few changes with the department. I just wanted to say I've worked with all of you for many years, and I'm really looking forward to working with you in my new capacity. We have a lot of hot topics going on in the industry right now. And as we'll cover over this meeting, we have lots of work to do in 2015, so I think it's going to be a very busy year. I'm looking forward to working with you on legislation, reg changes, and other issues that concern the industry. And I'd also really like to find a way to be more involved with the board between meetings. So one thing I was thinking of, we have a trends committee for our real estate board, which I think is very helpful because it's, you don't set up face-to-face meetings necessarily. It's more, touching base by phone. And it's a good opportunity just to exchange, issues that are ongoing and concerns. So maybe for the next board meeting, you can all think about that. We unfortunately can't have a quorum of the board on the trends committee because that would make it a formal meeting that's subject to the open meetings laws. But I think it's something that we should pursue. In addition to myself, we have Ernita Gann, who's our new chief investigator, who we've also worked with for many years, and David Mossberg, who took over my role as program counsel. So he's going to be your person for any questions about regulations, statutory interpretation, and he'll also be working with you on any regulation, legal-related projects. The board's going to be working on.
Okay, that's great. It has been a very busy year. You can't pick up a newspaper that you don't hear about something happening, both in the city and upstate. And Whitney and I have touched base, and as well as Denise and I on a couple of things. So I think it would be advantageous for all of us to kind of keep abreast of things that are happening, so that we can, make our feelings and our position known, and do any additional research that we need to for both the consumer and the practitioner, to keep them abreast of things that are happening.
Absolutely. So Carol, if you could add that to the meeting agenda for the next meeting, looking at forming a trends committee.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be great.
So the first thing that we've really been working on, I'm going to turn this over to Ernita. At the end of 2014, we launched a new Appearance Enhancement inspection initiative with a pretty lofty goal of inspecting 25% of all businesses by the end of the year. And from that point, we're going to be looking at doing this on an ongoing basis, so that we'll be inspecting each business at least once in their licensing cycle. So Renita, why don't you share the results of our inspections?
Okay, as Whitney stated, that we launched this inspection, 2015 Appearance Enhancement Inspection. Since late October 2014, we have conducted 34% of the businesses that we are addressing. To date, the total number of inspections that have been conducted is 4,433 businesses. Okay, enclosed in your pamphlets, I have a copy of the spreadsheet, and it gives us a snapshot view of what we captured during the inspections. I mean, again, it's pretty explanatory, so if you have any questions, you can look at it over. If you have any questions about the information, you can shoot.
Ernita, the copy in the folders is pretty small. Maybe after the meeting, you could email a copy to the board members so they can take a closer
Well,
look
ours are
at
kind of
it.
small too. It's probably about the same size. This is the best we was able to do. But in trying to capture all the information on one page.
Yeah.
But I could run through the numbers if you want me to do that.
Well, I think we can touch on some highlights. I think, it goes over the counties we've inspected so far. What I found surprising, looking at where we're seeing the violations, we've known for a while that unlicensed activity is a problem in the industry. But I was surprised at the number of MSDS sheet violations that we were finding. Quite a few salons in all of the counties inspected didn't have the sheets available for review.
Right. Yes, that has been an ongoing issue of concern with us. And as you say, it's a pretty large number of shops not having, right, something as important as a material safety data sheet.
Were the salons not aware that they're required?
Many are not aware, and some that are aware, they just don't have them on site as required. I would think that the larger percentage is that they don't have them on site as required by law.
I mean, I think anytime you do an enforcement campaign, the goal has to be twofold. Certainly, you need to impose discipline on businesses that are found to be in violation. But I also think it's very important to take the data that you gather from these inspections to figure out where we're better educating public. And I think this is one area we may want to look at. Some kind of educational outreach to the industry on the importance of MSDS sheets and the requirement to have them on site. Certainly, we have a regulation pending to allow them to maintain them electronically, which should make the storage easier. So I think it's based on people not understanding the requirement and the importance of the requirement.
Again, this goes to the point of continuing education.
Right.
When you pick up your new license, you must go to a class somewhere. I mean, we have schools, and of course we're teaching that you have to have MSDS sheets available and that any inspector could walk in. But we are not catching the estheticians that were born in 1949 plus. And that's where the discord comes. If we had continuing education in our schools, we would give them the update, of course, from Ms. Gant and Mr. Mossberg. We would tell them about garbage cans. We would tell them about MSDS. We would tell them about everything that's important to protect the health and safety of the consumer. We have been asking to add this continuing education requirement for licensees when they renew their license. And so I'd like to bring that up one more time.
Absolutely. And actually, that's a good point. We were going to address that under the new business legislative changes, but that's something that we'd like to get moving on as well. When we get to that portion of the meeting, I'll speak about it in a little bit more detail. Essentially, what we need from you is we need to really look at other states to see what their types of requirements are to determine an appropriate number of hours in New York, and whether we need to also require education in certain topics. For example, in real estate, they're required to take a certain number, and I think at least 1 hour has to be in fair housing.
We did supply you with that,
Okay.
including how many hours were required in each state and what the specific topics were and who offered it online. But we'll provide that again to everybody and update it because there have been some changes, specifically in who requires health and disinfection.
That'd be great.
I'm surprised that there's almost 1,400 salons without insurance. That's very scary.
I think what we're seeing there is our regulation requires that they have it on the premises. Ultimately, I think most of the shops actually do have the insurance. They just don't have the proof of the insurance there to show the inspector. But we could take a closer look at that and maybe break down the percentages for you for the next meeting.
Okay.
Because certainly, I mean, any shop not having insurance is a problem.
Arnita, this is Rick. Is there,
Yes.
this list, does it include repeaters, or is there a way to separate out repeat offenses?
We don't have it categorized in that fashion, but I guess we could, our next report also have some kind of statistics on repeat offenders.
That would be good. Thank you.
I was surprised that there were only 127 violations in some areas in Manhattan, but yet almost 600 in Queens. And Arnita did explain that Manhattan had been done previously, and those figures may not be in here, correct?
We're in the midst of doing Manhattan
Okay.
right now, so we still have more to do in Manhattan.
Okay.
Yeah, Arnita, we're doing Manhattan over 2 months, correct? 2 or 3 months?
Yes.
Yeah, so we should see these numbers increase.
Okay. But we really, I think, need to do a better job at providing the information to current licensees about what's required on an ongoing basis. I know when they first get out of school that they're very in tune to what they need and have all the licensing and disinfection and practice everything that they need. I'm just not sure that it's carried through continually. Maybe that's why we're seeing some of these newspaper articles about disinfection and unsafe salons and prohibited implements and stuff, unlicensed activity. I mean, there's a huge underground that we really need to address.
Absolutely.
Thanks for all that work.
And just my final question, in the state of New York, how many inspectors are there to do this kind of work?
We have 27 inspectors, and we're in the process of hiring 5 more. But what we've been doing differently than in years past is our investigators used to just focus on doing inspections and investigations in select geographic areas. We're now using them statewide. So we have a whole schedule for the counties that we're inspecting, and so we move resources as necessary to make sure that we're conducting the number of inspections that we need to get a good sampling of the violations that may be taking place in that county.
And Whitney, I have a question. Do we have many that are non-English speakers? Do we have Korean or Vietnamese inspectors or Spanish inspectors so that they, in fact, can address and work with our licensees?
Yeah, we do have some foreign-speaking investigators. Arnita can tell you the exact languages. I know that we are looking, as we hire this new pool of investigators, we are looking for people with foreign language capability as well. But Arnita, what languages do we have from the investigators?
We have Korean speaking language, Chinese, and Spanish.
Okay.
Okay, so inspections are going to be a hot topic for the next year. So Arnita, if you could maybe email a copy of the breakdown to Carol, so Carol can circulate to the board members, so you can blow it up a little bit larger on your computer.
Okay, all right, I will.
Okay, any other questions for Arnita?
We're good.
All right. Okay, David.
Hi.
Back? Hi.
Your replacement, Whitney.
Oh, sorry.
I'll do my best. So I have basically 3 regulation updates to discuss with everybody. The first is somewhat related to what Anita just discussed with respect to MSDS. I know that the board had been trying to seek a change to the MSDS regulations to permit basically electronic or written MSDS sheets. The department had been working on it for some time. We had recently received approval from the governor's office to move forward on that regulation.
Yay.
So part of the process, and apologize if everyone knows this, but it's sort of like a multi-stage thing. You get first approvals, then second approvals, then they get published, then there's a waiting comment period, and then after that there's another publication. So we've already received first stage approval. We have submitted the materials to something called RRU, the Regulatory Review Unit. As soon as they provide us with approvals to publish, we can then publish the MSDS rule in the register, and then there's that 45-day comment period, and then after that, depending on what's received, the rule could take effect. So we are actively pursuing that regulation.
I have one comment.
Sure.
Just to let you know that the industry has moved away from the term MSDS, and the new universal term is SDS.
SDS?
SDS. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll get you right. I'll provide you with the stuff, the
Okay.
regulation.
I mean, we'll see. I don't think that that's what's known as sort of like a substantive change, so that
Right,
might be
okay.
something that we could do as a
Good.
technical
Okay,
thing, so we don't
technical
have
amendment.
to start the whole process
Okay,
over.
yeah, thank you.
'Cause I don't think
It's only
anyone-
been since 212.
There's, oh, sorry.
Okay, so I will send that to you.
Sure, absolutely. There is another regulatory proposal concerning the update to the aesthetics curriculum and the waxing change relating to sort of the implements being used and the glove requirement, things of that. So we have recently received approval on that one now as well.
Wow.
We anticipate that we will be continuing to work on that regulation to move it forward to the next process. This one isn't as far in the process as the MSDS rule or the SDS rule, but we are continuing to make progress on that one.
Do we have any estimate of a time frame?
No, unfortunately.
Because I think this is going to be an area that's going to be very difficult to get out to the practitioner.
Well, I know part of the process also requires publication and 45-day comment. So I think the regulated industry will have a good opportunity to see what the proposal actually entails, and during that time period they can always contact the department if they have questions or concerns or if they want to make suggestions to make the rule better.
However, this no double dipping and protective gloves was already sent for comment.
Right.
We were told last two meetings that it was already in comment.
Well, there's two different types of comment. There's and I believe that the comment that you may have been speaking about was, as I understood, this reg was posted on the department's website for some time so that people can provide comments as sort of a pre-filing comment period. Now we've actually gotten the permissions to move forward because a rule can't be published until it's actually noticed in something called the state register.
Yeah.
And so now we have additional approvals to move forward on that process. Unfortunately, I can't predict when the next process or approvals will come in, but I assure you that's something that we're working on. And then a third regulation, which is somewhat new that I'm not sure everyone is aware of. There is a governor's task force called the Council on Community Reentry and Reintegration. It's part of an important governor's initiative to try to remove barriers towards those who have, prior arrests or convictions. It's a statewide initiative where the council has looked at various licensing and professional requirements to remove these unnecessary barriers where there's not a specific statutory requirement that somebody go through a background check or provide information concerning criminal histories. So as part of that statewide governor's initiative, the Department of State was identified by the council to have an opportunity to create new regulations to further these goals and to reduce recidivism rates. So to that end, the department has prepared regulations to achieve these goals. These regulations will actually be published in next week's state register, and there will be that's when that 45-day comment for the public to provide their concerns or comment suggestions to the department. So we anticipate that new set of regulations will be promulgated in a relatively timely manner.
Do you have a number for that regulation?
Yes, it's going to be a proposed addition, section 160.13 to Title 19 of the New York Code.
Okay.
And that is all I have by way of regulation updates.
Thanks. Okay, we'll keep our eye on that. So that means that anybody that's entering, when they have to do the background check or whatever, there's going to be some changes.
Yes.
Great. E-licensing update.
Hello, this is Amy. I've been working on the e-licensing. And I just want to give you some background of where we are with it. It's been a little over a year that we've implemented it. And it's going pretty good. We had some bumps in the road along the way. We had to get all our defects out of the way. We're getting down to where it's working pretty good for the department. We're seeing that for initial online applications, about 60 to 70% of the people are applying online. For renewal applications, about 65% of people are renewing online. And as far as amendments go, change of address, those kind of things, about 50% of the people are using it online. The department is really encouraging people to use the online system because it's much quicker for them. We gather statistics, and we look at time to license measurements. And our reports, prior to going live, it was approximately, for licenses that didn't require an exam, it was approximately 11 days to get a license, business days, and now we're down to 4 days. And that's including back office and the online combined. So if you really apply online, it takes, if everything's fully completed, you'll get approved that day. The back office is a little longer because we have to do data entry. So we're really encouraging people to use the online system. We're going to be mandating it in the near future. We're going to start with online renewals. Rather than sending out the actual long form renewal to people, we're going to be sending postcards. We did this with our real estate system, and it gives them instructions on how to create an account and claim their record and then renew online. It really benefits them because it's much quicker for them. We just got to get people to know that it's available out there. So I think sending a postcard to them will be the first step in that. We're going to do that first, happening in around March. And then around September, October, we are planning on not having the paper application available on our website and having instructions on how to apply online. It just is, this is where we're going with this. And, we're going to be moving on to the second phase. So we really want to get everything ironed out, get the schools up to date. Most of the schools are involved in the online verification process. There are some that haven't gone on board yet. So we're going to be reaching out to them and giving them instructions and letting them know the benefits to using the online system. As you know, the people can take the exam in either order, the written or the practical. And because of that fact, we're seeing that there's, some of our exam sites, our practical exam sites, are getting filled up quicker down in our New York City office. And the reason being is it's not taking them any longer than it did before to take the exam. It was that before you had to take the written and then pass it and then get scheduled for an exam. So that would take at least at the minimum of 3 months. Now, some of our backlogs in New York City, it could take 2 to 3 months to get a site, but so it's generally the same amount of time. You know, we are looking to see if we can get more sites available, if we can get examiners, but they still have the ability to take both written and practical in either order, and they have the ability to get 2 temps. So, you know, and they also have the ability to travel to another site because other sites aren't as backlogged. It's just the fact that we have all of our applicants that can take the practical right up front, where in the past they had to wait until they took the written. So that diminished the amount of people that were actually taking the exam. But we are definitely monitoring it to make sure that we're filling the needs of our applicants. Do you have any questions?
Amy, I can just tell you that the schools are struggling with the procedure the way it is, and some of my colleagues can attest to that, because yes, we have students taking the practical first, and yes, they get a temp, and then they renew that temp, but the focus is really on the written examination, and in some instances, the student can be out of school almost 1 year before they take the written exam. And that's really hurting our pass-fail rates as well as getting our students prepared to take the exam. So many of us would, prefer the older system. That being what it is, one of the things that we have brought up several times is, and would like some feedback on, is allowing our students to take that written portion of the exam when they've finished a percentage of the program. So that we have the option of assisting those students with remediation. If you look at the state board results statewide, there's been a significant decrease. I've spoken to the committee as well as to most of you, the members here, about having the opportunity to revise the exam, review it, check the validity, because there's significant concern with the schools and the practitioners about the content of the exam. So that it's a challenge for us. When the students have been out of school and working for 8 or 9 or 10 months, it's very difficult for us to bring them back into the fold to remediate them if they in fact haven't taken that portion of the exam.
Dorothy, do you know why they're not taking the exam right away? We're kind of encouraging the students or the schools to, at the completion of the program, to get the student to get an account and have them schedule an exam immediately. That's the benefit of the system, is that the schools can get involved with the students and actually at the completion of the course sign them right up for that exam, get their schooling verification done, and sit down with the student and pick a date. That's what we're really encouraging the schools to do, because that will hopefully eliminate the people from walking away and then not wanting to take it in a month or two.
And most of the schools are in fact processing their students the day they graduate. The license application goes out. The problem is if the student takes the exam and fails and then takes the practical the next week, they already have the availability to renew that permit because they know that they've passed one portion of the exam. And just like, human beings, it becomes second, that it doesn't become a priority with them because they're working, making money, and they forget the technical stuff that they've learned in school. It's just the nature of the students that we deal with, and it's not just, it's test anxiety, it's the fear of failure, and it's very difficult for us to monitor this for a lot of reasons, particularly when the students fail. There's no way for us to identify who failed because we don't get the names. There's no content identified, what areas the student fails, so that we can't necessarily remediate them right away because we don't know where the student failed. They have to wait until they meet with somebody in the department 30 days after they take the test. So there's a lot of little glitches that the schools are trying to address, but they're kind of working in a vacuum because we don't have the data. I mean, even the testing results, we don't know what students took the test.
Right. I mean, I think the first step was allowing, there was a concern where they weren't taking the exams at all or not getting into the industry because they had to pass the written first. So our first step was to try to allow them to take either exam and at least give them encouragement by passing the practical. And, and I know that Keith has some information. We are definitely evaluating the exams, and we're reviewing them, and Keith has some statistical information that we're going to be talking more about later in the agenda about
Okay.
written exams below. But, I mean, I think that the system has really, tried to make it easier for the students and the schools to work together to get them into the industry and whatnot. I mean, there is going to be people that fail, but I think that we still allow them to review their exams for their written, and that should, help them know what area they're not doing good in. We're getting the exams available right away for them, so they don't have to wait. They can schedule themselves right away, and they're right at the end of a program, so, there's only, we're doing the best that we can and trying to help our students in the schools.
Well, we are happy with the system. The system has a lot of benefits. It's just a couple tweaks that we're struggling with at the school level. By nature, anybody that's taking any type of licensing exam has test anxiety, struggles, and obviously puts things off to the last minute. It's just something we're struggling with at the school. And it's not just the downstate schools, it's the public schools, it's, the schools on the island. Overall, if you look at the number of students that have actually passed the exam, statewide, the percentage has dropped.
Well, the only thing
So
I
we're
wanna
concerned
say
about
is,
that.
Since we have now that there's the option of taking either the practical or the written, either, or if you take the practical and then you wait for almost a year, you run a greater risk of individuals working without
Sure.
a license
Yeah.
in the industry.
Exactly. I mean, this is what we're finding. We're finding many of our applicants are coming back, particularly I know when you're doing inspections, because we always get a rash of people that are coming in for a prep, to find out that they've been working, for a year without a license or 2 years without something that has expired. So we can always tell downstate when you're doing inspections because you have a rash of people that are coming in to get renewed. I think the system in place is working. I think that the biggest struggle we have is when the students are failing, we don't know where they fail. So we can't fix, at the school level, what we don't know is broken. If we had some way of identifying what areas the testing is and where the student failed, we would be able to remediate and critique and develop systems in place to help them. And I think that's, from our aspect, what we're all struggling with. We don't know who the students are. And, obviously, outcomes is huge for the school industry. We have to report all of our students. And chasing them to find out that they haven't taken the exam for 8 months is very discouraging. So, I mean, it has a lot of pros, but it has a couple of cons that we'd like to work on.
Isn't there now that it is online and it is so great, there must be a way to do data collection for the school so that we could know who didn't make it on the first attempt. It would be very easy for us to bring those students in and help them. So if we're online, I believe that you have a way of telling us who did not make it on the first attempt, and we will reach out. Most schools have 100% pass rate on practical. The written is going down 100, 95, 90, 85, 80, 70. That's impossible. We have not changed our teaching methods. We have gone out and above board. We have to know what's on those exams. We have to update it, Keith. We have to work with you. I cannot accept a 70% on written. My teachers are in tears. So we want to work with you. Something's changing. And it brings up my theory of limitation. I just got a verification from 2010, 2008. By law, because we haven't changed the law, I have to verify their hours. That person is going to fail the written. Even though I would reach out to them, they don't come. They're going to take an exam from a study that they made in 2010, in 2009, they're going to fail the written. And it goes against our percentage of outcomes. So we're asking you for help.
Yeah, and we hear you. I think this is a new system, and no system is perfect. So, I mean, we are very interested in pursuing the early testing idea. Of course, we're kind of at a standstill right now for making enhancements to the system. So we're holding that for when we get going with phase 2 of e-licensing. I think when we do that, we can also look at better data collection for you. But I'll speak with staff after today's meeting to find out what capabilities are in the system. Like you said, it's an online system. You know, systems can pull all sorts of data. There may be a way to do it. Keith is going to speak a little bit more about the exam. For the past year, we have been very aggressively going through our examinations for all of the disciplines to do updates. So we are scheduled to be reviewing the Appearance Enhancement exams as well. So Keith will give you more information. We certainly need your assistance. We welcome your assistance, and we are going to be getting you and other folks from the industry actively involved in helping us with that.
Great.
You want to skip? Actually, we could do that. So the next thing actually is the new business, and the last item was written examination. So if you want, maybe bump Keith to the beginning of the new business.
You want to go out of order? Have me speak?
Absolutely.
Okay. So a couple things I want to just kind of talk about. As Whitney said, we are, freeing up some staff time to do some exam development on various different things. Currently, as far as appearance enhancement, because of the changes, hopefully, that we'll have in aesthetics, we're going to work on aesthetics first. So we have taken, at this point, staff have taken the current exams. We've run item analysis, is what a statistical study that we do on it to show the questions, which ones are performing well, which ones are performing as we intend, which ones are no longer performing as we intended. So we're researching that information now. So we're looking back at those questions and trying to update any references with the newest reference materials that we have. The ones that are not performing well, we're kind of looking to see if there's been a change or, if they can be referenced and why that is. The next step, once we're done with that process, which we still have some time on that process, will be to get subject matter experts to help us. So at that point, we'd like to reach out to people from the industry, whether they be educators or practitioners, to help us. Annette, I'm sure I'll volunteer you. I'm sure you'll be willing to. For the aesthetics one. So once we get through that process, and it's not a quick process, it takes time, but we'll do that. Eventually, we'll visit all of the disciplines at some point, but it certainly takes time. So we do recognize that the exams can certainly use an updating, but I would like to just make a couple of statements, because some statements get thrown out at the board meetings all the time about the pass-fail rates. And I want to make a couple of statements on my behalf. So I've been here since 1988, and I can clearly say that the written pass rates have never been in the 80 or 90% rate. They've always been fairly consistent. And I can tell you that I've looked back at 2012, 13, and 12, 13, and 14. Now, so these are the annual pass rates. So, they've gone up on almost every single one, not a huge amount, but I mean, Cosmo's gone from 61.9 to 66. Aesthetics went from 69.6 to 70.8. So, I mean, they're not huge jumps, but they've gone up. So I think to make the statement that they keep going down is a little unfair. Now, of course, individual schools can certainly go up and down. And that would be a fair statement if you want to pick out individual schools. But to overall just say that all the public and private ones are going down, I don't really feel is a fair statement. So we do recognize the need to work on it, and we are working on it. We'll certainly reach out for the aesthetics first to form a subcommittee. I know we have somebody who expressed an interest out in the Rochester area. Like I said, I'm sure Annette will help us. I'm sure Annette can probably help us to find some additional people. Dorothy as well. I don't know if Rick has anybody in the aesthetics. But we'll, so that'll be our next steps. I think that's what I have, really.
Yeah, 60% is still pretty low. I think our goal, we want people to work, and certainly there's room for improvement. So starting with, a redevelopment of the exam is a good place to start. And maybe, some of these other legislative changes that we're thinking about will help people as well. And the changes to the system to get people, allow people to take the exam early the schools still have an opportunity to help remediate the areas where they're lacking.
Keith, I had a question. Have the weightings of the exams changed?
No.
Okay.
I mean, it's still consistent with, the current curriculums that are out there. We have gone back and looked at new reference material periodically to just kind of make sure that most of the questions, or almost all the questions, we've tweaked a couple things here and there, but, they're still consistent with the curriculum, and they're still referenceable. The questions, I guess, would be maybe the correct term for it. But, I mean, certainly we can look to adjust the topics.
And the reference material is what? Are you using a variety of books or one book in particular?
No, I mean, we try not to use one book in particular. There's not a lot of different source material out there. I mean, obviously, Milady is the biggest one, but there is, and Dorothy, you probably know this. I spoke to it. It's been a few years now, but I don't know if I'll get the name right. John Mascarino.
Yeah. We have
and
the Click book and the Pivot Point book. There's actually 3 different textbooks that are out there that are used pretty consistently.
Right. And I know Milady is probably the biggest one, but John did send me a whole set of the Click books. So, we do have those as well. I'm probably going to try to, is he still there to reach out to?
I can get to whatever you need.
Okay. So, I mean, if there's anything newer, I mean, probably should look at what I have and see if that is the newest.
Well, I believe that the 2 main publishers, both Milady and Pivot Point, have new editions coming out this year.
Correct.
So I would say last year's edition as well as this year's edition you should have. So I can reach out to them and make sure that everybody gets the newer copies, because they're very anxious in making sure that their most recent materials cross-reference.
Okay. And the Milady's we have a contact for, so I do get pretty much updated with that if I make a phone call.
Got it. Okay, great.
Okay. Thank you.
And that's in all of their disciplines, aesthetics, nails, and cause. All
Absolutely.
of those, yeah, okay.
The aesthetics one, we have the newest one out there. Cosmetology, I think we just became aware that there's a brand new book coming out.
Yep, great. Okay. Perfect, thanks.
Yep.
Can I ask, what is the status now of the aesthetics curriculum that's been revised?
Is that the regulation, David?
Yes.
Yeah, so we've received the last round of approvals, so that's going to be published in the state register for public comment. It's usually a couple of weeks before we can get it in the register because of the publication schedule. After that, it's open for a 45-day public comment period. Mm-hmm. At the end of that 45 days, we need to review and assess any public comments received. So if we get any comments, we can certainly circulate those to all of you for your consideration. And if we're prepared to move forward, if the comments don't change our mind about any of the content of the regulation, we can go ahead and adopt. And again, there's publication requirements.
Now we'll have the option of sending that to all. We'll have the option of sending that to all of those that worked on the aesthetic subcommittee, so that they can review the comments. Oh, yes. Okay. Good. Because that will help us with the weightings and the SMEs. Okay, great. Thanks, David. Nail regulations?
Nail regulations, and we have actually, these next 3 things are all me.
Lucky you.
It's all me. It's really broken into 2 categories. We have our legislative changes and our regulatory changes. We've talked a little bit about the legislative changes earlier in the meeting. Essentially, we have the continuing education, which we're very interested in moving forward on. So I apologize if I misplaced the analysis you sent me earlier, so if you could just please resend that to me to get that moving. And then we have, according to my notes from our last meetings, we had 2 other legislative ideas we were thinking about: the enhanced aesthetics license, the laser, and some of the more semi-medical type procedures. And we're also thinking about doing a subcategory for assistant to assist with the hair washing as well. So I think on the enhanced license, we have the information that we need. Dorothy, you know, you did a lot of work on this. You gave me some great information. So I think we have enough to start putting that package together. The big open area is the assistant. I know there's some debate at the last meeting about whether or not that was a good idea. So I wanted to open that up for board discussion once again. If we want to, if we're creating other subcategories of licenses, if we also want to do them for assistants. And Cheryl, you if you'd like to join us for this discussion,
Yep.
you know, please do.
I have copies. I had emailed, I think every one of you copies of what the proposal looked like. Do you need them? Anybody need them?
Did we get them? I didn't get them.
I didn't get it.
I sent them to the mass email after the last meeting, I believe. And the idea behind this is that currently our students are not able to work in a salon until they're licensed. So they're not able to do anything. They can answer a phone, which most salons have exceptions. Students not able to do that. So this would allow students to have limited capabilities. They must pass, as the proposal shows, they must successfully complete, which means they pass these units of study within the cosmetology curriculum before they're issued an assistant certificate. There's a limitation on it, it has an expiration date. They're limited to what they may participate in and what they're prohibited from, clearly outlined in the proposal. You know, that can be added, more things can be added to it if there are things that are. And the rationale behind it was in the health occupations field, every nursing student must perform a clinical component in a healthcare facility in order to become eligible for requirement. This isn't necessarily a requirement proposal, but it does allow our students to be able to be in the industry sooner than they would be able to. And I know for me personally, many of my friends at those fields, being in school was one thing when you really started working in a salon, and I did work in a salon, hate to admit it, but illegally shampooing, and we know a lot of them are out there. That is really when I learned about the industry, and that really grabbed me and made me continue my schooling and pursue licensing. So it really does have, many aspects and benefits to, moving forward with this.
So you're looking at a 120-hour program?
Right. It's within the cosmetology program. Those units that stay within the cosmetology program should be completed successfully by the student.
120.
Okay. In that, you don't have copies of this?
No, we don't.
Okay, we can get you copies of this.
Right.
And we can table really in-depth discussion for the next meeting.
Okay. We discussed it.
Are you shaking your head no?
I'm shaking my head no, of course.
Okay.
I remember discussing it a little bit at the last meeting, but Cheryl, I do want to say that the students do get clinical practice in the schools, sometimes almost up to 40% of their program. So the option of working on clients in a salon-like environment is available to the students.
Right, and I taught as a cosmetology teacher, and I can tell you that clinical experience is certainly not advanced procedures that go on in the real world work.
Oh, I disagree.
Cheryl, are you saying you want to make a special exception for 120 hours over 1,000 hours?
No. You're saying at 120 hours you want to give them a shampooing license, am I correct?
Shampooing, that's basically.
Sure, and we're going to be sure that they do that how? No.
And what are we going to do for aesthetics and nails and it's a slippery slope.
I think we would be catching it through our inspections. Because when we go in, we do a visual inspection of the salon and we check the licenses of anybody who's working in the salon. But yeah, it's a good question. If we're doing it for this discipline, we should be able to be doing it.
Right.
And Arnita and Dave have a lot of work to do before they have to check on shampooing assistants.
Well,
without seeing it,
would be posted just like the licenses would be posted on the wall.
It's too much work. It's too much work.
Well, I mean, we'll review it and bring it up. I'm totally opposed to it. I was opposed to it a month ago.
I'm opposed to it, and Miss Dorothy's opposed to it, and I think there's enough work to do. We have enough work to do without that.
I think almost every other state does this, because I've researched it.
No,
Really?
not every state. And New Jersey has a permit at 600 hours, provided and they can only work when they're not supposed to be in school.
Right, and then that could be.
And there are a lot of states that do have shampoo licenses. I mean, we'll look at it and ask our colleagues.
Yeah, I'd like to see the research from the other states. Now, other than the additional work argument, saying that aside, why else is this a bad idea? Just so I can understand it.
There's no way the consumer will know that person only has a shampooing license. We all know that people work beyond their scope. And if a person is in a salon, particularly a student who may be trying to get a job in a particular salon, if their boss or a supervisor asks them to do something that's beyond the scope of what they're currently licensed to do, you know that they're going to do it because they're going to want to be placed in that salon and make a good impression. So I think we're forcing people who are not necessarily competent to go beyond the scope of what they're certified to do. And to me, it's a very slippery slope and could be very dangerous. Because yes, they're shampooing, and then the next thing they're going to be rinsing off a relaxer, and then they're going to be detangling, and then they're going to be putting a glaze on. It's more than just shampooing and then that's it, because that's not what the person is going to be encouraged to do. We've seen it happen in those states that have licensing. To me, this is a way of deregulating the industry when we have all of these different disciplines, which makes me very nervous.
All right, that's my next question. For these states that have this type of license, is there any data out there showing if there's a problem with unlicensed activity or practicing outside the scope? Because I think we would need that as well.
We'll have to take a look. I know Kentucky has the license, Florida has the license, so we can do some research and find out. I'm not sure if it would be just that license that they would have a complaint similar to what Arnita did, or whether it all goes under one scope, but we can take a look.
Would that be helpful?
Thanks.
So the next piece I had is regulations. There's been a lot of press about the nail industry lately. We've been taking a look at our regulations internally to see if they are strong enough. We hear a lot about pedicure baths, people getting infections with pedicure baths. I think we hear a lot about this, mostly from press articles. We don't see a large number of complaints from consumers that they're getting these infections, but there's this perception out there that it's happening. So I'm wondering, particularly with our pedicure regulations, if it's strong enough. It doesn't seem to have a lot of in-depth information that's in the ladies.
Right.
So I mean, we could possibly use it if we think there is a problem. Right now, all it reads is that pedicure bowls and baths must be cleaned.
Right. It doesn't meet current, the regulation as it stands, doesn't meet really what the training needs to be to make sure that there is nothing left in the pedicure unit, including the filter. I mean, there's very specific requirements of how long it needs to be disinfected, whether it has to be overnight. An actual log for the cleaning of the pedicures units are required in a lot of states. I think that we're very negligent in that area because we really haven't kept up with stuff. And not to say that the schools are not teaching it, because it's in the textbook, so we know that that newer practitioners, in fact, are getting that information. For those of us that get pedicures all the time, I think we see those salons that do a very good job, including wearing gloves and making sure that everything is clean and disinfected. But I do believe that we need to really address that going forward. It needs to say more than just clean. I think a time frame, what needs to be flushed and how long needs to be addressed.
Could I have a volunteer, maybe one or two board members who could help us with that? Maybe help us look at other regulations from other states or what's in the textbooks?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I'll reach out to Mr. Lim is here. I'm going to reach out to the Korean Nail Association. They have a great association, so we can reach out to them as well as the Chinese and some of the others and kind of get maybe a group together to give us some idea of what they're doing and reach out to a couple of manufacturers. We can do that.
That'd be great, thank you. One other area that we were looking at is just the general nail procedures, whether it's safe enough for the employees who have the ongoing exposure to the chemicals. We found a great OSHA brochure on common, just very simple steps that practitioners can take to protect themselves, such as putting a desk fan on the on the manicure table, wearing a mask. So I don't know if we need to necessarily require those things, or if it's just an educational campaign. There's other things that we can be doing to help the practitioners so that they're not unnecessarily exposed to these chemicals.
The great articles that you put on there, and I appreciate that, Whitney. You know that there's been a lot in the newspaper about protecting the worker and making sure that they're in tune to all of the OSHA regulations, including the vented tables and the lighting. I don't think that we need to mandate it, but I do think that consumer awareness is really important. You know, the newer technicians, and like Mr. Lim can address it, are all in tune to that and they're trained that way. But, you know, like everybody that works in any kind of environment after a period of time, you may get a little lax in the regulation. So, Mr. Lim, maybe you want to address that.
I'm sorry, I don't know. Just came. I had a long commission meeting in Nassau County. I was really late, and I don't know what we were talking about.
We're talking about the nails. Should we be more prescriptive with the regulations for the
regulation? I don't think
the
nail the Asian. I'm not targeting the Koreans, but Asian, the nail practitioner here in New York City, they don't even know whether they require the license or not. So mess. So mess. Nobody knows what they're doing it. They pick the people from the street, they hire them as a technician. And not only nail, but foot massage. It's a floating in New York. Every corner to corner, they're renting out family house, operating on the second floor. They do everything's up there. Now, do we have anything we can do something about this, or where we're standing? I don't understand it. It's a mess. And the market is so messy.
Well, I mean, we were out there doing inspections, and that's what the things that we try to capture. If there's things that are not being done according to statute, you know, we were out there conducting inspections.
I don't think they know about this. Is there's any way we can enforce and teaching them what they require to do that practice? Practically, they don't know. Honestly speaking, about 80%.
Well,
that's a fact, and they're happening in New York City right now.
When they have a violation, do they have to go through a training program or a safety program or something that the department mandates?
We don't have mandated training programs unless we find violations that exist.
I mean, maybe some webinars or online stuff that they have to view or something. That's what a lot of states do. You know, like if you're drunken driving or speeding or whatever.
We don't
go
have
to that school on a Saturday, whatever it is.
We don't have a corrective action plan. We find the violation, but we don't have a corrective action plan. If the corrective action plan, like Ms. Ceresi said, go online, that's one of the things, a mandated course. Again, I'm going with continuing education again and again. So this is two different things. One's continuing education when you renew your license. One's a corrective action plan when you get a violation.
Well, we have been in the recent discussions on various outreach activities that we can conduct, but you know, it's open for discussion right now.
I know when we first started with the different disciplines with the nails and aesthetics, we went to hotels in Long Island and did presentations. We went all over the state so that people were aware that these new licenses were coming into effect and what they needed to do. So I know we try to reach out to community organizations, but how else can we do that? See, my concern is we have a lot of non-English speakers in the city who may not have computer access. So if we are moving over to all of this stuff, how are we going to get those practitioners whose livelihood depends upon being licensed and being compliant into the fold?
Have you guys looked into free
I
community
think
newspapers?
we should have some sort of the seminar which we had it before.
Exactly.
Very often.
Yes.
Right, we used to
All
do,
right, and
we
then
did
teach
quarterly.
them what they require, you know, that practice their business. But now, the way it is now, people don't even know. Not even know. They don't care about it.
But we used to get invitations to.
Right.
when
Yeah.
it got
And
done.
we have to really make a strong issuance of the
Associations.
summons
Right.
and teach them how to behave. They don't care this. It's a mess.
You know, you need you need a brochure that is delivered, hand delivered. It says, "Do you know the regulations?" And then it lists the regulations, and then it lists the fine that you can get, and then it lists where you have to go to learn about this.
They don't read those kind
Guys.
of notice or letter.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Whitney.
Actually, Melanie Grossman from our Division of Consumer Protection would like to jump in here.
I have a suggestion for you guys that may actually solve getting to the other communities. There's an organization of free community newspapers throughout New York State, and it's in every corner of the state, and they reach in other languages, and I think there's like 16 or 17 languages in which it's published. Perhaps you take out an ad or ask them to run. They often do per diem ads for us, depending on what information we're trying to get out and who we're trying to reach. But they sometimes do it for free if it's a community issue that's really dangerous. And they have an association. Their lobbyist is in Albany. Her name is Mara Ginsburg. I think she's with Hinman Straub, if anyone wants to reach out to her. But she's a good contact. And if you create some sort of an article and have it either contracted out to be translated or however you want to say it, they will put it in those newspapers in the different communities in which you want to reach. So if you want to reach a large Korean constituency, then you ask her which papers to reach out to, and she will tell you, or she'll send them to the main umbrella, and they will send them out. But it is a huge reach. I mean, millions of people a month.
Well, maybe this
In
is
the
a,
language in which you're trying to reach. In the community in which you're trying to reach it. So it may be something to consider.
sounds great, Melanie.
Great idea.
I mean, I think it's a very grassroots effort that we need to do to get the actual practitioner that is.
These are the papers that are available, like in the diner.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
that
we
are
see them all
free
the
and
time.
the thing that you pick up. Those kinds of papers.
Right. Well, maybe
That's
it's
a good
something.
idea, and if we had that kind of article that's translated, we could also, pass them out during our inspections as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So Melanie, maybe we need to follow up with you to see if we can get that out and hold some information sessions and get it to the people that are working.
Sure.
Yeah, I think we'll work with Melanie to develop the content, and you should put us in
Right.
touch with the lobbyist from Hinman Straub, and I think that's a great idea. 'Cause I can't believe that people aren't working unlicensed because they want to be unlicensed. I mean, I think there's an educational aspect to it.
Oh, absolutely. But there are many that are living in communities that just somebody gets them a job and teaches them in a couple of days what to do, and then that's it. We see it all the time for those of us that are city people.
Yeah.
It's not unusual. Okay. I'm trying to remember when we worked on that nail curriculum. Maybe, Denise, do you remember 92, 93?
Around 93, 94.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, our
Maybe
goal,
it's next one to look at.
yeah,
That's the next one
our
to look
goal
at.
when we did the aesthetics curriculum was to work on the aesthetics and then work on the nails and then last, obviously work on the cause. So, maybe, I mean, I've looked at the content. The content is very old. Half the procedures aren't even done anymore, and it doesn't include any of the newer procedures or the chemicals. So, I mean, I think that's a huge drawback for those that are being trained. We know that they're doing it in the schools, and we know they're teaching it, but it goes above and beyond what's currently in the content. So it needs to be addressed.
Yeah, let's definitely make nails our next one and get that going. No, I think we need new subcommittee members, correct?
Yeah.
So yeah, board members, if you're interested in working on it with Denise, please let us know. And if you're aware of anybody else, you think.
Yeah, we have a lot. We have a lot of nail people.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Business. We did have someone that we did send to you, Whitney, as a candidate to be on this committee for nails. She's very strong. Do I need to resend that to you?
No, I can probably find that. If I can, I'll let you know in that.
Thank you.
Anything else, Whitney, or is that?
No, that's it.
Rates. Oh, I don't even want to. I spoke to her separately on that. We do have one member of the public that would like to address the committee.
Two.
Oh. Ms. Grace McCarthy. You can go right over here.
Sure.
How long do I get to speak? Okay. My name is Grace McCarthy, and I'm an owner of the Art of Massage, which is a licensed massage and aesthetics facility in West Hampton Beach. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to let me speak about the crisis that's threatening the massage therapy industry in New York State. Some of you may be shocked to learn there is a crisis, yet I assure you that if our elected officials do not take strong action, many honest, hard-working, licensed massage therapists like myself are going to see their livelihood destroyed. Here's why. Before I opened my business in 2001, I spent over $30,000 in tuition to earn my license in massage therapy and aesthetics. Every year since then, I've honored New York State's numerous regulations and regulatory pay, the state's ongoing licensing fees, but now I'm facing illegal competition from rogue outfits that ignore all state regulations and fees. They charge half what a licensed person would charge. If they were forced to hire a licensed massage therapist, they would not be able to charge rock-bottom prices. In recent years, New York State has passively let unlicensed massage shops, foot spas, crop up like wildfire in malls, shopping centers, and on street corners. These practitioners use their cosmetology license and aesthetic license as a loophole to practice out of their scope. Let me repeat, as you know, an Appearance Enhancement license for facials, hair, and pedicures does not make you qualified to do a massage or reflexology. Do you know what I witness when I enter these places and pretend to be a customer? I've seen tampered cosmetology licenses that these lawbreakers try to pass off as a legitimate. I've seen unlicensed therapists go from one customer to another without washing their hands. I've put myself through school to be proud to have a massage therapy license, but now anyone can throw a chair in a mall and dig their elbows into somebody's back. It's a disgrace to our profession and the public health issue. The public deserves to be better protected from such risky behavior. That is why I'm here to seek your help. As an advocate for LMTs, I'm shared my concern with Senator Laval and District Attorney Thomas Spoda. I've also launched petitions on MoveOn.org, so I hope you can appreciate all my extensive and exhaustive research I've done. Our elected officials cannot and should not stand idle while unscrupulous lawbreakers endanger both the health of our citizens and the careers of honest Americans. Massage is one of 50 professions governed by the state education department. Thus, it's their responsibility to uphold and enforce the laws pertaining to massage and reflexology. And it is also the responsibility of the Department of State to uphold and enforce laws for appearance enhancement licensees. Failure to do so leaves New York State vulnerable to legal action from massage patients whose safety has been compromised by this criminal activity, and from LMTs whose businesses have been injured due to governmental apathy. The Department of State recently attempted to tackle the problem by requiring appearance enhancement facilities to conspicuously post a sign that indicates they are indeed licensed.
Although I appreciate the gesture, please allow me to be blunt. Do you truly think that posting a piece of paper is effective? All it does is confuse the customers. It also presumes that the public knows the difference between an appearance enhancement license and a massage license. Let's be realistic. The average customer does not know one license from the other, nor should they have to. A much smarter solution is to reword our current legislation, which is insufficient and often ambiguous. Here are my suggestions, and I'm not going to read every single one of them because there's certainly many here, but one that comes out that is particularly, there's a loophole, is Article 160.27. It is so vague that it creates a loophole for illicit businesses. As it now reads, licensed appearance enhancement practitioners may practice light massage for purpose of beautification. In my opinion, this is the most important law that needs to be reworded. We need to clarify that no massage should exceed 10 minutes. We need to clarify that massage cannot be a primary offering. It has to be incidental to a service being performed. For example, a client purchases a 1-hour facial while the mask is on the face. A beauty massage is performed on the hands and the arms while the duration of the mask is on. That's just one example. It's also an example if you do a pedicure. You know, you apply lotion to the feet and the leg during the pedicure. At no point do these services should be separated and then charge 1 hour for a deep tissue massage when that person has no credentials to do so. There are so many people. There are people walking on people's backs, hurting people, hurting people's feet. And I understand that there's two separate entities here. There's the New York State Department of Education and there's the Department of State. And these two people need to work together in order to reinforce these laws and create some type of clarity for these people, because to say that these people don't want to work and they don't want to practice without a license is baloney. They blatantly work without a license. They blatantly work on the public. I have them on tape. I've investigated for the past 9 months of what these people do, and it is absolutely appalling. Most importantly, whatever the law is, it needs to be enforced. You can imagine my frustration. A business opens its doors 1 mile from my door offering services they are not licensed for. What am I supposed to do when village police, town police, county police, state police, Department of State, and the Department of Education bury me in a sea of red tape because of jurisdiction issues? I know that the justice system moves slowly, but how many years are going to pass before meaningful action is taken? My conclusion is that both massage industry and the appearance enhancement industry desperately needs improved legislation, more investigators, harsher penalties, and diligent enforcement. I urge you to do everything in your power to protect my fellow LMTs and the public. And if you need to consult with someone who is dedicated to this industry, I will be more than happy to assist you in the future. Thank you, Grace McCarthy. And I'm sorry, but I've been working on this. I've spoke to Senator Laval. I have people helping me. And this has got to come to fruition. Something has to be done about this. To say that people, I mean, it's a blatant, these people are blatant. You go in, they want your money, they'll do any service that you ask for, and then when you ask them to see the license, they pretend they don't speak English.
Yeah.
This, I have it on tape. If you want me to listen to it, I will put it on right now.
We know.
Okay? So I'm just telling you, I'm prepared to show you, and you can listen to it. Several different places, and they all do the same thing, and it's blatant, and they don't care about getting a license.
And we appreciate your passion.
And I'm sorry, I'm very passionate about it because I've been in this business 15 years, and I've seen it go downhill for the past, I would say 10 years with this. I mean, you have all these wonderful schools that offer the education, to say that they're lollygagging and not getting their license, well, that's their problem. They shouldn't have a license if they're not going to go forward and get their license properly. They have no business practicing on the public. It's a public health issue, and there are all sorts of contraindications, especially for massage therapy and reflexology.
Very good. You mentioned which I love to express to them.
I have fire in me, and I'm telling you right now, I will not let this go. It's got to be done. Something's going to be done.
Right. A lot of problems, I know that.
Whitney, would you like to address some of that? And Grace, maybe you could.
And I don't mean any disrespect. I'm very passionate about this. I want you to know that I'm willing to help out. It's just that it's so blatant and so, like I said, I've been following all the rules all these years, 15 years. You would be upset too.
And we are.
Yeah, I think one thing we can do, Ms. McCarthy, if you can leave your contact information with Ernita Gant, we'll be in touch with you. I mean, from the Department of State's perspective, where we can certainly help is if we have a licensed cosmetologist or esthetician, or one of our licensees who's practicing outside of the scope, because we would have jurisdiction.
Well, I have another question too. When I go on the website to put in a complaint, that's the other thing. They want you to do it online. So I've tried several times to do it from both my computers, one at work, one at home. One's an Apple, one's a regular Microsoft. And by the time I end up writing it out and then sending it, I go to open it up and it's blank. There's something wrong with the transmission of, so now I have all these paperwork that I have to send out by mail, snail mail, you know what I mean? And it's like, so that there's a glitch somewhere on the website as well. You can't even put in a complaint in if you wanted to.
I'll look into that. I'm not aware of the system not working, but I definitely will look into it.
Yeah, but
I know we've been
Do
receiving.
you get complaints every day through
We do.
via email?
Yes,
We get most of them through email. But what we can do, please leave your contact information with Ernita Gant, who's sitting next to you, and we'll be in touch with you to get some more information from you, and also to get complaints against our licensees who may be practicing outside of the scope.
There's many of them. And like I said, I'm also licensed for that as well, so I do know the laws.
And it's possible as we're looking at, strengthening some of our other regulations, I agree. I think
Who do I speak
the
to
wording
in
of the
reference
statute is
to doing
vague.
that?
Pardon me?
Who do I speak with in reference to strengthening the laws? I have somebody
That's
up
us.
from the State
That's
Education
us.
Department who is on the committee for the state education, and he's working with me. Senator Laval got me in touch with him, and his name is Franklin Esson, and he's helping me work on it. So a meeting of the minds would be great.
Well, I think what we can do, I mean, we have jurisdiction over our statute, and the statutory
Right.
provision you pointed out, I agree, is somewhat vague. We have jurisdiction to promulgate regulations to clarify what's in the statute, and if the committee is looking at our other regulations, this may be an item that we could look at. Do we need a specific regulation to clarify what a light massage is? That it has to be incidental.
Exactly.
That it can include deep tissue. So I mean, we could get that information from you as well to see what you think would be appropriate in a clarifying regulation.
Okay.
All right.
She's provided her with her contact information, and
Okay, great.
Does anybody else want one of these?
I have one.
I'm gonna put my email on it.
And thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, and we have one other public member that would like to speak.
Thank you.
Mr. McCarthy, do you have a copy of that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And I have it on copy.
Of course.
Thanks.
Make sure you put the New York on.
Yeah. artofmassageny@gmail.com. And all of our email addresses are on the Department of State website, so you could feel free to email it to any of the members that are not here today. I'm sure that they'd be interested.
Thank you.
I told Grace that I think that she should email the document that she prepared to the rest of the committee members to kind of bring them up to date. And I'm sure Ernita will send it to you, Whitney.
Okay.
You have a
great.
copy too, right, Grace?
No, but we need it.
I think so,
Okay, great, okay. We don't want to kill any more trees.
Oh, well, I have a hard copy now.
And we have Anthony who would like to speak.
Come sit next to you.
Sure, you can sit next to me. Are we still talking to each other?
We are.
Of course. How was Phoenix? I forgot you were going.
I didn't go.
Oh, you didn't go? Oh, that's why I didn't call you. I figured you were there. Sorry, just catching up.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Anthony Civitano. I'm the Executive Director of the New York State Beauty School Association. As I sat here and listened to this meeting, there were a lot of things that I wanted to comment about, but in the interest of time, I will save it and narrow it down to two key points that are very important to me. Number one, I really just wanted to speak about this 120-hour mark for students to be able to go to work. I'm going to tell you that I think that that is unconscionably thought of. It can't happen. It's an insanity to let them do that. If you want to focus someplace to better these students and help them, it would be to do the early testing initiative so that we can remediate them. To let them go out and work is only going to create more unlicensed work. I don't want to repeat too much of what you've already said here. But the reality is that is what will happen. I don't know what happens upstate where there's not that many students maybe, or Western New York, but I will tell you down here the concentration of New York City and Long Island, you will just create a cluster of unlicensed workers, and it will only hurt us for our students to be able to, or to initiate, to go back and to take that written or practical examination. So please really think hard and long about that before you pass any judgment on that. The other thing that I have is I sat here and listened to a lot of the things that you talked about, and I'm going to tell you, as a proud New York State, lifelong New York State resident, I don't like when I hear, well, we're going to look out to other states and find out what other states are doing. New York State, in many cases, is looked at as the gold standard across the country, and we have plenty of very well-educated people within this room and the room up in Albany and throughout this state. And to say that we need to look out to other states to find examples of what needs to be done is really kind of, as a New Yorker, as a native New Yorker my entire life, it's almost somewhat insulting. And I'll be honest with you, I'm going to give you an example. I own 5 schools in New York and 2 schools in Florida. In New York, it's 1,000 hours, as you all well know, and in Florida, it's 1,200 hours for a cosmetology license. So you would think, well, they have 200 hours more, maybe we should find out what they do. In my lifetime as a school owner, I can't tell you how many of my graduates have gone down to Florida prior to me owning a school. And when they said to me, Anthony, what do I have to do to get licensed in Florida? And I would call my colleagues in Florida schools, or I would call the Florida State Board, and they would say to me, you can teach them whatever you want as long as you get up to 1,200 hours. And believe me, that is the standard across the country when you hear that. The federal government is looking at the way that, from the dichotomy between a 1,000-hour state and a 2,400-hour state. We really do. We have 1,000 hours here. I'm not advocating for more work. Our students get practical experience in here. If you didn't know about that, I can just let you know about a lawsuit that's happening. It's a class action lawsuit that some attorney in Nevada decided that all of the students in cosmetology schools across the country, because they're working practically in the school salons, they should be getting paid a wage. What's that?
Classified as employees.
Classified as employees. So to say that they're not, when there's a federal lawsuit out there, a class action lawsuit, that is contradicting that, I'm here to tell you that they are getting practical work in our schools. They are getting, I can't speak for Western New York or upstate New York. I can tell you that my schools in New York City and Long Island, they are turning out some amazing work and some amazing product lines that are coming through and giving us education, giving our students that benefit of when they graduate being able to go out there and work. is happening in our schools today. So please don't discount what's happening in those salons, in the school salons, because it's very important that you understand that they are getting that training. And when they graduate, they do have an entry level expectations of employment. Nobody's saying that we're creating Vidal Sassoon when they graduate from here. They are able to go out and they are able to find employment. And it will make it only better. And to be honest with you, I'm kind of jumping around a little bit. I heard mention of the early testing initiative and how you would have to extrapolate information. You don't have to extrapolate anything, because the students that at an 800-hour mark that take the test and get notified of a failure and you tell them what they failed at, they're going to come back to us. They're going to show us, hey, this is what I failed. This is what I need remediation on. It's very simple. The state doesn't have to do anything more. So please take that into serious consideration. And I want to close with one last thing. I've been working for about 5 or 6 years. I worked with Matt Tebow in the past, with our lobbyists to get on this board, this advisory board. I understand that you almost never have a quorum. I am somebody that is here ready, willing, and able to attend these meetings every time you have them and able to vote. So please consider me to get on this advisory board as soon as you can. And thank you for your time.
Any other comments?
No one from Albany.
None from Albany. Okay.
I usually shut down meetings.
Anthony always
Is it something you
closes.
said? Is it something you said?
Any other comments from New York?
I know, Albany, you appreciate the passion in the room to make changes. And if I can read my notes, it says that there's the waxing protection change for 45 days, and there is the new aesthetics program to be approved, and now there's a new law about community integration, all up for 45 days. So we want to see this happen. It's been on the agenda since 2012. So I'm saying, please, let's have closure on what we already fought so strongly for.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think we'll definitely be getting closure soon on the open items, and I'm looking forward to a very active 2015. We have a lot of great issues to be working on.
We certainly do. Okay, thanks, everybody. Make a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn the meeting.
I second.